How's it going, everybody? My name's Dan Lannon, and I'm here representing Deadeye Sports Technology. We are reimagining sports training. Now, the core part of our team started out playing sports together in 2005, and 13 years later, we're still best friends. You know, every time we come home from school, seeing each other, hanging out, and supporting each other at our games 13 years later. And looking at that, we looked at what we think youth sports can bring to kids, and really, it's on a downfall. And the reason it's on a downfall is the fact that a typical teen nowadays is spending 3 months of their year staring at a screen. It's really kind of a horrifying stat when you think about it. And this isn't just, you know, the kids who are inside playing video games, the kids who you would picture doing that. It's any kid who are involved in sports teams and really involved in anything. And the two main contributing factors here are social media and video games, due to the fact that they're social and they're competitive as well. That's what draws the kids in. And we're finding that parents are realizing this. There's a lot of parents who, they're trying to get their kids outside more, get them away from staring on a screen, but they're struggling to do that because the kids this day and age really don't want to do anything unless technology is involved, and there's a lot of research to support that claim. And that's where we come in. We looked at sports, being that we grew up in it and that we love them and the community that they bring, and we wanted to create a technology that is competitive and social. Now, why are we starting out in sports? Well, it's a massive market, and the youth market is expected to triple in the next 4 years. It's a market that parents are actively trying to push their kids into to get them to go do more social activities, and we believe that we can capitalize, as well as bring something positive to the table with bringing kids a community environment for long-lasting friendships. So we began looking at where we could innovate, and what we found from our experience in sports is we remember sitting back when we were kids playing lacrosse, and remember going to camps, and when a coach would pull out a radar gun to see how fast you shot, every single kid would lose their mind to find out how fast their shot was. So I remember having a Hot Wheels one that never worked when we were kids. It was super cheap and never did what it was supposed to. So we went back to that and looked at what are the problems with these speed sensors. We found the handheld ones are still just as poor as they used to be, and ultimately they take 2 people to use. You can't go out in your backyard and use one. And the wireless sensors are very expensive, and again, they don't offer the social and competitive factor. So that's where our solution came in. We wanted to start simple. We didn't want to reinvent the wheel out of the gate because we are young entrepreneurs, we are young engineers. We can't go in and just create something completely new out of the box, out of the gate, in the sense that we want to get our feet wet a little bit. So we wanted to build something based on proven technology. So we ran off the speed sensors and tweaked it in something with a magnetic attachment that can attack things like the crossbars on a sports net or a fence, really anywhere there's a metal surface, or even a tripod. Now, our technology would be social. Kids could share with their friends their speed, as well as share when they're outside practicing, and share it with their coaches as well. Finally, it's competitive. I know if I were inside playing Fortnite and this notification popped up on my phone, I'd be immediately putting down my controller and going outside to go and reclaim my record. Now, the current competition within the radar gun space is the main player that does a wireless solution is Pocket Radar. However, Pocket Radar does not offer any sort of a social or competitive platform. We do. Now, we've talked to a lot of different sports organizations, specifically four-leaf lacrosse, as well as sua sponte lacrosse camps. Well, they field over 500 players, and we're currently lined up to bring our product to them this summer and be able to beta test our project, take it to them and figure out exactly what it is we want to do with it and work out the kinks. Again, starting with speed sensors, that way we can sort of work out the kinks in our app and see what people are interested in. Now, this is what it costs to field a youth lacrosse player. It's about $1,500, each piece of equipment costing between $50 and $200. That's why we chose our price point as about $100 to $200 for a piece of hardware, as well as about a $4 to $10 app subscription, comparable to what parents are paying for an Xbox Live or PlayStation subscription. We found through our customer discovery, parents said if they're going to pay that to have their kids sit inside on an Xbox, they'll absolutely pay it to have them outside competing with their friends. So what comes next? Well, again, we're starting in speed sensors because they're proven technology, but really where we're heading is adding a camera on top of this. By adding a camera, we can create scenarios such as this, where a player can be outside and also track their accuracy. Now you can see where this could be used in sports like golf, and really anything where form or having an accurate representation of an athlete would be useful. And the competitive nature comes in when two players from across the country can pair up and play an accuracy shootout contest and really be doing this all day, similar to video games outside. And really the sky's the limit with this type of technology. You can take image processing, and with enough of a good programming team, you can make it really do whatever you want. You could have this be analyzing footwork drills with timing and really take it to any sport you can think of, whether that be baseball, golf. We've even been looking into yoga recently for the fact that it's very heavily dependent on form. Now we've looked at the industry trends here, and what we're finding is that sports data and analytics market is blowing up right now, with companies like Peloton reaching a $4 billion valuation very quickly, as well as MyFitnessPal being acquired by Under Armour. These are all companies that have been focusing on the sports analytics and sort of that fitness at home sort of mentality. And that's really where we'd like to head towards. We're starting in the youth sports market because we have great connections to the market, and we can bring in simple technologies that kids will enjoy using to really, again, get our feet wet and figure things out at the start. But really where we're starting is we're getting back to our roots. You know, we all started out playing sports together, and it's why 13 years later, now we're all getting together and trying to start businesses. You know, we've always wanted to do something entrepreneurial. We've talked about it since the time we met, and ultimately, this is sort of our first stepping stone. At least that's the way we see it. And this is the unfortunate truth right now. You have kids spending more time inside than prisoners. It's really horrifying. So friendships like our teams, they might not be around 10 years from now. You know, we'd really like to have an impact on that, bring something that keeps kids entertained, keeps them motivated, keeps them happy doing something other than sitting inside staring at a screen all day. It's not healthy, it's not good, and ultimately, from a market standpoint, parents realize this. They want to change it as well. We are Deadeye Sports, and our team is made up of some very talented programmers, as well as a solid business team. We're spread out across the East Coast, between Springfield College, UMass Business, LaSalle, UNH Engineering, and RPI Engineering. Right now, we're seeking electronics and consumer products manufacturing information. We have a V1 prototype. We're building out prototypes sitting in a dorm room right now that we're bringing into these organizations for the summer to test drive. But ultimately, we'd like to finalize those designs, bring them into the fall and the winter, and try to get a version 1 of our product that we can try and sell by next summer of 2020. We're also looking for connections to youth sports organizations. If anybody knows any specific large organizations that would be interested in something like this. Thank you very much. I'll take any questions.
What's your biggest technical challenge?
Sorry?
Biggest technical challenge for your software?
So we asked what our business technical challenges for our software. So specifically in software, that's something that we're trying to stress is that we are a software company. We are not a hardware company. The hardware piece is relatively simple. Within software challenges, ultimately the image processing side of it is simple for things like ball accuracy tracking. When you look at what it actually takes to do that, it's unbelievably simple for a lot of reasons that just sort of worked out that way. The second we start adding features, such as a player moving through a ladder drill, it gets very, very much more complex. So by then we'd be partnering with people in the biomechanics space and sort of, I guess, bridging the gap between simple ball tracking and then moving into real hardcore sports analytics, which focus on the form of an athlete. That's where things would sort of bridge from, okay, we're in the little league, and then we move to the big leagues there. So making that bridge, I would say, would be our largest challenge. Good.
Dan, it looks like sharing is a big part of your app and stuff. Do you think it's wise to be charging? Because if I'm doing something and I have this subscription, I can't share with somebody else, especially if you want to grow. Could you figure out some other ways to get money from the app versus a subscription or monthly? And the other thing parents hate is monthly bills that people don't use. So have you thought about that?
So speaking on other ways to bring in revenue short of subscriptions, other things besides subscriptions. Now we've looked into that fairly heavily. Specifically, our customer discovery was what pushed us towards the subscription model. Based on, we talked to some advisors who said, well, if you're making something like this, if you don't do a subscription model where you have recurring revenue, ultimately we've been told, well, you won't be able to sustain it because you'll be maintaining an app no one's paying for. And from talking to parents, we got a lot of, and we were talking to mostly parents in the lacrosse organizations, which generally it's a fairly wealthy sport. And from what we heard from a lot of those parents, it was, you know, they're paying for so many subscriptions for their kids as it is, that if there's one that's effectively keeping them outdoors and they can consistently see them using it, well, then they would be okay with it, because they're already paying for all their other things that are making them sit inside all day. On that, to combat that, we'd like to put things in our app that would keep the kids actively going outside. As far as specifically you're saying bringing another revenue, we're not really sure. We've looked into taking the analytics and being able to, if we can sort of create a portfolio of a kid who's been practicing with our technology from the age 12 to 18, by the time college scouts start looking at them, we'd have a whole profile on them. And then we can turn that and monetize that.
I get that, but I think you should really think about that seriously. You know, you said all those things that the lacrosse person pays for. You could set up some affiliate deals or some kind of, you know, referrals. It'd be a lot smoother path for you, because you're asking parents to pay. I mean, it takes months before that's going to take off. You use a Fortnite example, that's one you should look at.
Right.
So, thank you very much.
There you go.
So,